Cyclone choppers cost rises to $15.9 billion. Canada sending more equipment to Ukraine. And Canada starting to export arms back to Turkey. This is the Great White North Report. I'm in love with the system. Never going home. I'm in love. So I mean to get onto this, but the whole Middle East thing and Canada's role has been in the news more and more. It comes that the estimated life cycle cost of Canada's Cyclone choppers rises to $15.9 billion. New estimate is $1 billion higher than previous cost projections. Now this is a lifetime cost, so if we have these for so long, that's what they'll cost if we have them like 10 years from now. But I think that's a given. I don't know why they're giving this price, maybe to scare the government off. So the Department of National Defense revises estimates of the lifetime cost owning and operating the Air Force's CH-148 Cyclones. These replace the Sea Kings to $15.9 billion, slightly more than $1 billion higher than previous estimate. Like back in 2021, it was 14.87. That's called inflation. Everything's going to cost more the older it gets. So it's a forecast of higher sustainment and operating costs over the decade and a half the aircraft is expected to remain in service. So we're looking at 15 years, despite the fact it took 2 decades to replace it. And the Air Force is yet to receive the final 2 aircraft out of the 28 it ordered. For me, I just say let it be. We'll deal with the cost. Now, Defense Department said it will receive the second to last helicopter at the end of the next month and the final aircraft in 2025. Now, Defense Minister Bill Blair said there's no plans to ditch the program, which is good, and he's looking for another aircraft to fulfill the critical role of anti-submarine warfare. The problem is that anti-submarine warfare is not as big of a deal as it used to be. The Russian submarine fleet is still dangerous, but nowhere near what it was in the Cold War. China is not yet on this side of the Pacific, so to speak. They're mostly involved in the South China Sea, though I'm sure they push their patrols up into the north and south as far as they can. It wouldn't surprise me if a Chinese submarine has tried to cross the Arctic Ocean, but their capabilities are still far. They're more concerned with homeland defense than they are with anything over here. But we should have anti-submarine systems in place. Now, the other thing is the Air Force is worried about keeping new maritime helicopters' weapon systems operational, and that this is still a work in progress for these aircraft. And none of the Cyclones we have reached their final operating capability, an important designation that includes the military satisfies it got what it paid for. Retired Colonel Larry McWaugh, who commanded 423 Squadron when it flew the Sea Kings, said maintaining and upgrading the Cyclone's weapon systems will be a huge, costly challenge because Canada is the only country flying the CH-148, a militarized version of the Sikorsky S-92. Well, I think we need to manufacture stuff ourselves, if it came to it. So components will be harder to find, may even be specifically manufactured, so we can get it from Sikorsky. So the Liberals were the ones who bought this thing back 20 years ago under Paul Martin, who predicted it would be in service by 2010, 2011. The Conservatives were thinking of scrapping it altogether because of the cost and the delays. The government has spent $1.7 billion on the project by that point and received just 4 test helicopters, but opted to stick with the program. Might as well, you've sunk that much money into it, why not? And the revised contract with Sikorsky almost a decade ago, the Air Force will start to receive 28 fully capable helicopters by 2018. Given current personnel and resource constraints, it is unlikely it will receive full operating capability by 2025 when we get the final one. Shortages of skilled personnel, and delays in the delivery of the 27th and 20th aircraft as Sikorsky waits for parts. So it's might not be a lemon, but it's definitely been a long, slow process for this thing. Hopefully it performs well over the next 15 years. Because we did need something to replace the Sea Kings, and I can't believe how long this thing took. It's the issue with the Canadian procurement system and what's going on with our military right now. When it says personnel, part of the problem with the Canadian Armed Forces and the shortage of personnel is that they're trying to go woke and diversify with diversity. A white, straight male trying to get into the military right now, your application goes on the bottom of the pile. They've already done away with mandatory haircuts. You can have nose and earring piercings, all that fun stuff. And you can be gender fluid in the military. And that actually drives a lot of potential recruits away. And also these people who are who are fluid gender, LGBTQ, most of them have never done hard labor in their life. Why would they join the military? And those that do have a hard time adjusting to digging a trench. And not many immigrants are willing to join the Canadian military. So that's something that needs to be scrapped completely from our military. And take whoever wants to and get rid of some of the wokeness. Because wearing ear piercings and nose piercings in combat zones are not a good idea. Metal, especially metal, shines. Jewelry shines. Reflects light. Good way to get yourself killed. Look at any other military in the world. You don't see anything like that we have in Canada now. Most of the Canadian veterans that I've talked to, they hate it. Those that are currently out of the military and still in the military, veterans. My own daughter, she said she has a friend at high school who wants to join the military, but she's not going to join the Canadian military. She's going to go back because she has dual citizenship with Italy. She's going to go back to Italy and join their military. Simply because she's seen what the Canadian military currently looks like and says it's not for her. Now, Canada plans on sending more equipment to Ukraine as full-scale war Russia nears 2-year mark. Ottawa donating boats and training for fighter pilots. It's not a bad idea. Trying to get the we did that in Canada. We trained pilots in Canada for World War II. Some 4,000 pilots were trained in Canada to fight either in mostly the European theater, but also in the Pacific theater. So we're going to send another $35 million worth of military equipment to Ukraine and we're providing 10 multi-role boats from Zodiac Hurricane Technologies, valued approximately $20 million. The rigid hull inflatable boats are a favorite of Canadian Special Forces for commando operations. They can be used for search and rescue, troop and cargo transport, surveillance, and reconnaissance. This is at a time when the Ukrainians are pushing into the Crimea and have crossed the river. They've established bridgeheads, but they want to establish more. Each boat has sophisticated sensor, navigation, and communication systems. It includes commercial training for Ukrainian operators as well as spares. And Canada will pay for civilian instructors from Montreal-based Top Aces Incorp. to train Ukrainian pilots to fly F-16s, being donated by Norway, Denmark, and the Netherlands. So that's a $50 million training package. Sponsor class will begin next month and will last for a year. Also, we're donating English language training to Ukrainian Air Force personnel at Canadian Forces Language School. So I'm all for this. Russia started. So this is the difference between the Russian-Ukrainian war and the Hamas-Israeli war. I support the Ukrainians because Russia invaded Ukraine unprovoked with the goal of taking over as much of Ukraine as they could, especially the Donbass region. That offensive has stalled, and Russia has been mostly on the defensive except for a few small areas, and Ukraine is having a tough time digging them out. Russia has defense in depth. Russia has proven to be not as tough, and Russia is also dwindling its own stockpiles of ammunition. It can make a lot of stuff itself, but it's not the same quality if it's rushed. And they're also importing from North Korea, which has very shoddy workmanship. It's one reason why North Korea has raised the stakes on their side against the South, because they don't want to be seen as weak. Meanwhile, they're sending as much as they can make or stored military equipment over to Russia. So they have to appear belligerent to keep the South Koreans from taking advantage of their own shortages now. Not that South Korea is going to, but they fear the threat. So that's a good thing. Now, Canada restart arms exports after Turkey backs Sweden joining NATO. So a new agreement requires that Turkey provide Ottawa with information on end users of Canadian equipment. Because too many times, certain drones captured from groups like Hezbollah and Hamas, ISIS, the Taliban have had Western technology. We don't want to see that happen. So they've reached a deal to restart Canadian exports of drone parts in exchange for more transparency on where they're used. It would take effect after Turkey completes its ratification of Sweden's NATO bid. 20 months of delay, Turkey swiftly this week endorsed Sweden's membership, leaving Hungary as the sole ally yet to ratify. So it expects to send final documents to Washington as soon as Friday would clear the way for Canada to immediately lift the export controls that it adopted in 2020. So here we go. Canadian technology was attached to Turkish-made drones that have been used by the Azerbaijan while fighting ethnic Armenian forces in the enclave of Baku has since been retaken. So Canada doesn't want any of its equipment involved in any kind of ethnic warfare. Is this a good thing? Economically, it's a good thing for us. We're selling drone parts. It gives people jobs, brings money to the country. People don't seem to understand that the military exports is a good way to make cash. And with Canada sending stuff to Ukraine for free, eventually maybe it'll work out that Ukraine will send stuff, will give something back down the road. Also, this helps us start rebuilding our own stocks and put more money into our defense industry and buy new equipment. So anyway, any Canadians, let me know what you guys think of the problems with the Cyclone helicopter, as well as us sending more military aid to Ukraine, and should we have restarted our arms export to Turkey? Leave comments in the comment section, hit the like button, subscribe if you're new to the channel. Until next time, this has been the Great White North Report.
I'm in love with the system, never going home.